Three dozen shows, three dozen shows, three dozen shows. Game in the real, those was the game. Game in the real, game what is real. Don't rush with me. 10 years ago, 10 years out, 10 years ago. Go summer room, having on TV. Three dozen shows, three dozen shows, three dozen shows, three dozen shows. And for what you say, I will get together.
Three torture souls.
No, I jam to that all the time.
I know. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Right when we were starting, I looked down and I was like, where did Kenny go?
I went to close the office door because I don't want to disturb everyone else.
Well, welcome everybody to our show. We have wine and alcohol and poorly organized thoughts. I mean, what else can you possibly want for a Saturday night?
I love it. That's the best way to describe us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did we lose Dave already? I think we did.
You guys dropped out too. Weird.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Woo!
Here you are, Dave.
Here we go.
I'm next.
Technical difficulties tonight.
Everyone's on.
Demons.
It's always demons.
It's always demons.
Maybe we're cursed.
Maybe.
Okay.
We were so lucky. Well, before we start our show, just want to kind of kick it off with while we're in the chat room and while everybody's together, just remember, let's all be respectful of each other and have good conversation. I've seen this recommendation from somebody here. Don't be a dick. So, I think that was it.
There you go. Yeah. I'm the only one that's allowed to be disrespectful. Because you can all blame me.
And we will.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that disclaimer's out of the way, and we'll just be checking out, seeing how things go. Normally, we just kind of let it go, but we thought we'd throw a disclaimer in there for this one, and maybe some future ones. But anyway, I'm host tonight, and I was tasked with coming up with an idea. Thought I had a pretty good idea from a recent experience that I had from getting several messages sent to me about there's an organization, or I don't know if you want to call them an organization or a paranormal team somewhere on the East Coast.
This organization.
They were actually advertising on job sites for a full-time paranormal investigator. And so people, I guess, were just like sending me this thing going, hey, check this out. What do you think? What's your opinion? And so finally, typically I was just kind of like, don't do it. I'm like, I was like, I didn't even look. I was like, just don't do it. Just don't.
Yeah. Don't torture yourself.
Yeah. But then I was like, okay, I got to.
Yeah.
And immediately I shared it with you too. So I was like, I got to go see this. And right off the bat, the job turned into a volunteer situation in your job description that you would share expenses for travel and carry heavy shit. So basically they're looking for an intern. But and I was going to let it go. I really was. But I thought I'd do a little bit more digging. So I started checking out who they were, started looking again, shared the stuff with Kenny and Dave. And the founder, I guess, for lack of a better word, just for no other reason, there was a soft spot or a dead spot in at work. I Googled that person's name, and the first hit came up as a registered sex offender. So I was like, maybe that's a coincidence. So I redid it again, and sure enough, the first 3 hits came up about the sex offense, criminal being a registered sex offender. So I don't know. That just made me think about how people that really want to be on a team, and the website looked like a website there were some credentials there. I think Kenny kind of busted. I don't know if I want to go into the credentials. Just I want to kind of keep the situation very vague.
Right.
But it wasn't very hard to discredit what we were seeing, or at least throw some light into what was not as it seemed. And I thought, people that really want to be part of a team, or if somebody was like wanting them to come to their house, would they have an idea of how to vet somebody? Would they have an idea of like how to check out credentials? So I thought, why the hell not? Let's just do it. I think all three of us here have at some point, I know Kenny has, I came in on the tail end of that story, but I thought let's just go ahead and throw out some ideas that we all have, and what we can do to just check out to make sure who we're inviting in our house isn't more of a potential threat than what we think they are.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
You Dave, you want to shoot? See who goes first? Ready? Rock, paper, scissors.
1, 2, 3.
Do it again. I did paper sideways.
All right, ready? Do it again. One.
Good.
Now you froze up. 1, 2, 3.
Oh!
Well, guys, this is going to be the whole show. One more time.
Go ahead, Dave. You go, Dave. Go ahead.
Okay,
I'm going to let you go.
No, I agree with Tim. You definitely want to do a little bit of homework before you decide to invite somebody into your house. There's a lot of different ways you can check up on them and see who they are and how they think and how they handle themselves. So we'll talk about the different ways to do that, I'm sure, throughout the show. And then the other thing, if you're just starting out in the field and you want to get involved with a group, it's also good to take a look at the group to see if this is a bunch of people you want to spend your free time with and put some effort and money into it. So, back in the day, Jen and I had a rather large group for a while. I think over 70 some people at one point. And, there you get all kinds of people. We at least tried to do what we'd consider like a light screening process, almost an interview process. And you always told them, you're subject to, if you join the group, because we do go into private homes, you always told people we could do a background check on you if we want to. I don't think we ever actually did, but it's definitely worth taking a look at, because if you're looking at people that have these problems in their homes and they're calling you in to their personal homes or businesses, you want to make sure these are at least up and up people that you don't have to worry about what you're doing. You don't have to worry about shady stuff going on. And you also want to make sure they're giving you good, accurate information and doing what they can to, if they're there to help you. And that's one of the main things I'll talk about as we get into this, is what is their motive? Why are they there? Why are they a paranormal group? Why are they wanting to come into your home? And that's one of the big things you'll have to ask them, because quite honestly, if you go to a ghost hunting group's website and this first thing you see is featured on, and it's all TV shows, I'd be a little hesitant there, because they're probably just trying to look for another story to get on TV again. But I'll leave it at that. Turn it over to Kenny.
Okay. Good one, Dave.
Kenny?
So, yeah. Opening statements, I'm right there with you guys. I think the overall theme is know who you're dealing with. And that's something I preach all the time. Like, and we'll definitely get into this later in the show, over the course of the show, but you have to know who you're dealing with, and not just a team. It doesn't take much to put up a website. You can do it in 5 minutes. Boom, you have a website, you have a team, and within 10 minutes. I've been there when Tim has set up different websites, and I know it's like within a half hour, it's almost a complete website done. Like who you are, contact, experiments, all kinds of stuff. I've done it. I recently did it with the museum thing that I did, and within an hour, I had a complete website where it was functioning. So it looked professional. It looks like a real place, even though it's in my freaking basement. It looks like a real place. So
it is a real place.
It is a real place, but it looks more professional than a basement. You know, like it that's the image that I'm promoting. But of course I do videos in my basement, so you know exactly where it is. But the point of that is that you can you can masquerade as something that you're not if you want to. It really doesn't take much. And you don't want to just look at the team's website. You don't want to look at everybody. You know, who's coming to your house? Who are you going to hang out with? If you're, there's so many things that we can get into more details about. But I mean, I can remember times of joining ghost hunts where it's like, hey, you want to just all jump in one vehicle and go to a place. And you're like, oh, cool. You know, this is great. But you don't think about, like, if these are psychos, you're stuck. You know, you got no ride home. They could leave you out there. Who knows what's going on? But at the very basic level, you know who you're dealing with. There's ways to check credentials, backgrounds, simple Google search. I mean, that's your most basic thing. Google is a powerful tool, and it's amazing what you can come up with. So, yeah, that's my opening statement. Know who you're dealing with.
Well, before the show, I Googled my name just to see, because I was like, somebody's going to Google my name while during the show. Let me see. So apparently I'm a pretty good professional golfer.
Oh,
good
yeah,
for you.
I would like to have that type of cash. I did not know. Let's see. JD's got a question. My whole thing is, if you were going to advertise yourself as a paranormal investigator, exactly what service are you offering?
Exactly.
That's a good question, and that is, I'm going to write that down for another show.
On my list.
that question alone could be another show. All right, so I like that. I'll take up where Kenny kind of talked about Googling. So I'll start out with, that's all I did to start with him, and it was literally just a Google search, and the first few hits came up with being a registered sex offender. So, looking into degrees as I went through it made me think about if you're faced with a situation where someone's telling you have a degree, an educational degree, some things that you can check for. I got these tips from the Federal Trade Commission, which was a very interesting place, but I'd like to, point out where I got it from. And there's actually a whole dedication to looking at ways to falsify or check falsified documentation there. So it's I didn't realize it was such a good resource, but here's just some highlights that I got from it. So if you're listening to someone tell you about the degrees that they have, some signs that you can tell, if they're a bogus degree. Doesn't mean necessarily what they're saying is lying, but this is just a way to, you should have a red flag pop up. So one of them is are out of sequence degrees. So if you're listening to someone give an explanation of, or giving you their credentials, and they're telling you that they have a master's or a PhD, but no bachelor's, that's probably an issue. Typically, as it says, degrees go high school, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral. And after that, you're looking at even higher advanced degrees. Skipping any of those degrees and saying that you do have a degree, I'm not sure how it happens, but maybe I don't know a situation where that could happen, but at least at some point you would want to reference those degrees. Another way to give you a red sign about someone telling you about their educational degrees, if they have what's called quickie degrees. I knew I was going to get a laugh, but so typically advanced degrees, you're looking at 3 to 4 years. 3 years if you really put the hammer down and work hard for it. 4 years for undergraduate degree, 1 to 2 years for master's, and even longer to earn a doctorate. 18 months to earn a bachelor's degree. Again, doesn't mean that, doesn't mean that it's a poor degree or a not credible degree, but for you listening, it's just a sign that you would want to check that. You would want to see, You would want to know their school. You would want to know when they attended, and you would want to actually contact those schools. I found this one very interesting that that I didn't think about was degrees from schools in varying vast different locations that are apart from each school or apart from where the applicant or the person you're interviewing to come to your home or for you to be part of their paranormal team where they live. So it's just, it turns out it's a very odd situation to have degrees from different sides of the country, different states apart. If you've lived or they've worked in a residence that all their life, but their degrees are coming from different locations. Another reason to think about checking out the credentials of the school and making sure that they actually earn that degree. And I like this one because we talk about this one a lot. I think we've actually called out a few degrees, but it's sound-alike names. So a lot of falsified diplomas and a lot of falsified schools will use sound-alike names. I don't want to say that there is a school like this, but I keep thinking about, I have a degree, master's degree in engineering from MIT. You would say I have a degree from OEP or MET or just something.
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, you know me. Wait, drink.
Oh, there we go. Damn it.
All right. So look for sound-alike names where the school's going to sound like a name. The name of the school is going to sound like the school that you're thinking of, but be sure to check that name. That is a way to help falsify. In a brief survey, in a brief kind of looking for this about how often people actually falsify and get away with falsified degrees, I was really kind of shocked that in an actual, not just for paranormal stuff, but for actually professionals, falsifying degrees is quite an issue in some fields. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of background check that's actually done for some jobs. So I found that quite interesting. So I'll leave it at that. I'll pass it on, but when I get next, I'll talk about how you can actually verify someone's degree and what you can do for that.
Awesome.
The only thing I would say is most sites, real quick, then Kenny, you can go ahead, but I would say most sites I've gone to, I've rarely, if ever, seen anybody put their academic credentials on it.
Right.
Yeah. Rarely ever.
And we're talking like ghost hunting sites, right?
Yeah. Paranormal investigation groups, anything like that. I really have not seen that as common practice anywhere.
Yeah. I think the most common, and I say that loosely, that I've seen is when it's like law enforcement. If it's a cop, they usually put like, so many years on the force or retired detective, something like that. But I agree. I usually don't see anyone put up any kind of academic degree. And I mean, I would venture a guess, and this is purely a guess, that they probably don't have one. That's why.
Either that or they don't think it's relative,
right?
Or not relative, relevant to the field.
All right.
A lot probably aren't.
All right. Am I going next?
You go next.
Okay. I'm going next. I want to keep going. Well, I'll jump a little bit to a different sort of topic about about just doing background checks on people. And that's usually my first go-to step whenever there's an issue that comes up. The investigations, whether it's ghosts or hauntings, whatever, the people involved is who I check first, because I want to know if they're legit, especially if I'm meeting up with them, if I'm going to be working with them, if they've done this kind of thing before. So if you're considering having or joining a team, or if you're considering having a group out, you really want to look at the people involved. And first, you can do Google. That's a simple thing. It's free. You can do it. You just type in their name, like a general location, and you start doing your research, which you could get a couple hits right away, or it might take a little bit. You know, you might be there for an hour or two looking up names and making sure you have the right person. And that's essential. You have to make sure you have the right person, because there's a lot of people out there with the same name. And you might not think a lot of people with the same name are in a localized area, but it's common. It's a lot more common than you think. But aside from Google, there are other sites. There are paid sites that do complete background checks, and some of them, like Instant Checkmate. There's Truth Finder, which is those two I use, and I have subscriptions to them because you get a lot of information. You not only get information on people, but like when you spend the extra money, which I do because of my other job, you get records on locations like addresses, businesses. You can get much more information, and it gives you criminal history, background, businesses, licenses, any liens on them. You get past addresses, phone numbers, all this stuff. You get a lot of information, and you're not using it to be a stalker, but you're using it to check up and see what's going on. Because if they have a criminal past, you might not want them in your home. You know, like if they have a long record of stealing shit, you don't want them in your home. You really don't. Because I mean, when you think about it, if anybody out there that's watching and you're a ghost hunter, how many times have you gone to a private residence? What happens? You guys kind of split up. You go into different rooms. There's not always a homeowner with you. And I'm not comfortable with somebody I don't know, or actually several people I don't know, being in my house where I can't watch them, you know, and see what's going on, because there's a lot of stuff, especially, I mean, you just look around this room, there's a bunch of shit you can just pocket. And it would take me a while to figure out, except for certain things. Like I'd walk in and be like, whoa, this is missing. I already know that. But, I mean, this is a big deal. And again, with the situation that brought this topic to our attention, if you're, I feel silly saying it, if you're applying to be a ghost hunter for a team, you want to check out the team leader at the very least. Like that's minimum. Like anyone else that's on the team that's been there for a while, these websites and Facebook pages usually have some kind of profiles, you know, so look them up. You have their full name, you have where they live about, you know, that's enough. Once you have that, that's enough. And you can start digging and find out. And I mean, shit, if a team leader popped up with this background in what we're talking about here, what Tim found out, I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be pretty pissed off. And I would feel the need to warn other people. Like, you might not want to do this, you know, because, and I know I'm droning on here, but
no, I understand.
You have to consider, if you're joining a team, a ghost hunting team, you spend a lot of time in remote places, in the dark, late at night, with one or two other people. So if this person is a serial killer or a serial rapist or something like that, and has a record of this, I would not want to be alone with them in a room, in a barn, in a farm, out in the battlefields of Gettysburg somewhere where there's no phone lines and you can't get any cell service. Nope, don't want to do it. And I would feel much better knowing that ahead of time and saying, nope, sorry, pass. So with that, I will pass it to Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered how to look into people, and you can do the background checks. One of the things I would look at is, you know, what are they posting? What do they put out there for the public to see? What does their website look like? What does their Facebook page look like? What does the group have as far as information? How long have they been around? Have they done a lot of different things? You could ask for references. That's pretty simple. You could ask, well, it looks like you have 22 investigations here, some private homes and businesses. Would you mind if I contacted any of these people to talk to them about, how you conducted yourself, what you did, what your approach is? So references, that would be a good one to take a look at. You could just talk to them. One of the things that always helps is talking to somebody, getting to know them a little bit and getting an idea of what their personality's like, how they think, how they feel, the type of information, type of stuff they tell you. Do they get defensive if you challenge them on something and say, okay, I had this happen and maybe it's something natural. And if they start, oh, no, it's all paranormal, you definitely have a ghost. Do they jump to conclusions ahead of time before they even really get in and take a look at what's going on? And one of the main things that I know Jen, she's the one who really emphasized this, and I agree completely, is if you go to a ghost hunting or paranormal investigation group website and they have no phone number, to me, that's a red flag. You're putting all your stuff out there. You want people to contact you. Why don't you have a phone number? It sounds weird, and I get it. You can email people and you can send them messages, but if you're not willing to put your phone number on there for people to contact you, to me, I think it raises a bit of a red flag. It's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you want people to be able to call you and contact you? So there's just a couple more things on people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at where they're employed too. I mean, you can.
I don't know about the phone number thing.
See, I think
like for me,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm not a ghost hunter, but I offer people to contact me, but I don't want them having my phone number because I don't want them calling me at all hours. And I've been through that. So that's my experience. Like people have called me all hours of the night.
You can add a line to your cell phone plan for $20 a month. There's no reason not to have one at this point.
Okay.
You can use
I guess number. From that perspective, if you
business line, I guess.
I get that then.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing is trying to get a feel for the legitimacy of this person in this organization.
Okay.
Well, we got a question. When I got into ghost hunting, I never heard anything about degrees. Are there actual accredited colleges that offer degrees in the paranormal? Before I let the person I know that can handle this one. And maybe when I was talking, just to clarify, when I mentioned, when I was thinking about degrees and talking about people that are presenting degrees, surrounded with a paranormal claim or what they do, I was thinking more along the lines when you see science-based websites that, we're a science-based team. I have 4 degrees in quantum physics and have developed my own portal machine. Like, those are the things you're going to want to kind of check up with. So yes, I also agree that there are people that claim to have parapsychology degrees, but I was also thinking about people that will try to make an appeal to authority by padding what might be the resume. So I'm going to drop that very good question to Dave because I know exactly he's got that.
Accredited colleges that offer degrees in the paranormal. There is no college that's going to offer an accredited degree in anything called paranormal. They won't. If you do find it, and the majority of them are overseas, they will have parapsychology degrees, and that's still pretty rare. For the most part, what you would get is either an anomalous psychology degree, or you would get an advanced degree in psychology with a dissertation or research project that's focused on a parapsychological topic. Mm-hmm. So if somebody says they have a bachelor's or master's in the paranormal, that's 100% bullshit, red flag territory immediately.
Yes. You can see, there's dozens and dozens of websites that will offer a certification, like ghost hunter certification and paranormal investigation certification. And again, it falls right under what Dave said. It's bullshit. They are not going to teach you anything that you cannot learn from just Google. There's really no difference. And you can watch a television show and pretty much be up to date on what they're going to teach you. I've taken some of those classes, and I use that term really loosely, and it's almost laughable, the documentation that they present, because it's just basically like their ghost hunting reports, the stories from. I've seen one that actually copy and pasted it, stories from one of the regional books that I have on my shelf, and said these are cases that we've done, and I actually reached out to him and said, no, these are cases that this other guy did. Here's the author. Here's the book. You copy and pasted it this. And that was it. Like, I was done. I was blocked.
You got vickered.
I got vickered. Totally vickered.
There are online courses, though, that are legitimate. There's one through the University of Edinburgh. They have a parapsychology class taught by Dr. Carolyn Watt. There is the MOOC, which is the massive online classes that are held for free every year through, I think it's the Parapsychology, either foundation or association. And those are taught by people who do research, legitimate professors at universities in the field. Mm-hmm. And then there's other, I mean, you can get a certificate, but it's not a certificate of like paranormal or parapsychology investigator. It's a certificate that says you took the class.
Yeah.
Just so you can say I took the class, which that's perfectly legit.
Yeah.
That's fine. But they're not conferring any degree upon you. So there are some online stuff. And there's a lot of crap though. I mean, there's even ones that, because of, I'm not going to say the name, but past associations with certain universities, that you would think it's pretty legitimate. And it's not bad, but it's just not the level you would get going for like the University of Edinburgh class.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people out there, like, I mean, I know Lloyd Auerbach, he teaches classes. I mean, he's got his master's in parapsychology. He's legit. He talks about how to do investigations. So they're out there. It's just, you got to be really careful. I've spent a lot of time looking at those, and actually spent some money taking some of those classes. And I know Kenny's done the same with the certificate things, which is just hilarious to hear him say he took the whole thing and passed it while he's drinking in about 3 hours. So
took a 5-day class in 30 minutes.
So yeah, they're out there. You just got to be careful. But as far as legitimate, if you're going to go get a bachelor's in the paranormal, one, if you say that, you sound like an idiot, and two, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. That one parapsychology diploma, like that was, I forget the amount of hours. It was supposed to be like 160 or 200 hours worth of coursework. And yes, I did it in 5 hours.
Well,
drinking.
Kenny, you should have learned in that class that because of the quantum energy entanglement part of it, time is irrelevant.
So I learned I was entangled with all of the physics books at the same time.
Right.
That way, the alcohol enhanced it, because by the time I was dead drunk, I passed all my tests. But I actually wanted to build upon what you said there with Lloyd Auerbach. I spoke to him. I wrote an article about fake diplomas, specifically parapsychology diplomas, because there were certain celebrities that were, promoting themselves as parapsychologists. And
right.
I reached out to Lloyd, and we had a nice conversation over the phone. It was great. First time I actually talked to him in person like that. And he told me, like, straight up, he does not offer degrees.
Right.
And he said the same thing you did. When they get a certificate at the end of his class, it's a certificate of completion. They took the class. It doesn't mean they're a PhD in whatever, or they have this magical degree. No, right. They took the class. And as a bonus, he told me that he uses some of my work in his classes. And I was like, what? That's pretty cool. That's awesome. I like Lloyd. He's a good guy. But,
all right. Got another question. I have a pretty good idea how you guys feel about investigators who charge fees. Yeah. What about accepting reimbursement for travels and etc.?
I don't have a problem with that.
I was going to say, I for me, like, if somebody offered, if you're not insisting I mean, if somebody wanted to help, like, I don't have a problem with that. If you don't make it known that they are obligated to give you money, I know sometimes they don't want to charge, and they say we do this for donations or reimbursement only, and that's my understanding is like a tax thing for income. But honestly, if someone's going out there to do whatever they're going to do with no expectation of any type of pay or reimbursement, or placing those type of expectations on who they're working with, and somebody offers, I don't have a problem if somebody does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if it's something local, I have no problem just going out. I mean, I don't do that too much where I actually go on location to a private residence. I try to avoid that, honestly, because there's a lot of issues, and we've brought that up before. We've talked about the issues with private home investigations, but if it's something local, I have no problem going there and just doing my thing. But if somebody calls me from, like, I don't know, it's like a 10-hour drive away, and they're like, "Hey, I really want you to come out here." Okay, but you're, as long as you put up gas, food, and like give me a place to stay, either your couch or a hotel room, then fine. That's all I'm asking. I don't want, like, I'm not going to charge you like $100 or $500, whatever, to come out for services, because I don't know if I can do anything, until I get there and look. Plus, I enjoy it. So, but yeah, reimbursement, I have no problem with. But I mean, I think if a team puts up on their website and they're like, a standard ghost investigation is $500 per person, or something like that, go beat off somewhere in the corner. I'm not calling you. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did I say
Well,
that?
interestingly enough, the paranormal organization, for lack of a better word, that I looked into, that was offering a full-time job for paranormal investigators on a job search website. Actually, on their website, they charge for investigations and charge for ridding. They have different, if I'm not mistaken, they have different levels of amounts that they charge for what you're dealing with. They also offer people to come with them for a charge as well. So that kind of falls in line there.
I mean, when it comes down to it, honestly, each to their own. I mean, if somebody wants to put up, hey, this is our fee for doing what we do, that's up to them.
That's tip.
If I don't agree with it, I don't agree with it. It's not up to me. It's up to them, and it's up to the person that decides whether or not they want to, give the money for it. But yeah, I mean, for me, I don't do that. That's all. Because mostly because I enjoy doing this. Do I go into people's houses? I try not to. I really don't. Because most of the claims that come to me, I can offer advice or suggestions and say, hey, why don't you try this instead, or set up a camera. If something's going on and you have no idea what's causing the noise, set up a camera here and there, and they do it. And then they usually, I would say most, like 9.9 times out of 10, and I'm totally making that number up, they will figure it out themselves and report back to me, which is great. I try not to go to people's houses. Just I don't feel comfortable because usually I don't know the people, and there's a lot that goes with it, and there's way too much to explain that will fit into this one show. But there's just way too much involved, and I don't feel comfortable going to people's houses.
I can agree. And just to throw a little bit, maybe to help sum it up, there's a whole lot more that can go wrong than there is that can go right.
Yeah.
A lot. So, yeah.
I've been in very bad situations before, and I try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Next
All
topic. Let's try to turn this around to a happy moment.
Yeah. So to follow up with mine, like how you can check actually to see if a school is accredited or if they actually have this degree. And again, I guess maybe I should have clarified at the beginning. It's not necessarily a degree in anything that's paranormal related, or should I say, no, I should say actually a paranormal degree. My thought was more along the lines of any type of science-based degree that people would use falsifyingly to promote a sense of authority in the field. So once you see that, if you are presented with the degree, just some things that you can do. Again, you can find this at the ftc.gov, I think, is actually call the school. Call the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Registrar, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can verify.
Yeah. Some, yep. Just call the school. You can research the school online to see if you can look for accreditation. Here's the next step. You can search and use the internet to check if that school is accredited. And also you want to check if the program of that school is accredited. So schools and different programs can be accredited, but there can also be introductory programs into a school that are pending accreditation until they work out the kinks.
How's that wine?
Oh, it's delicious. It's empty, so I need some more.
Okay.
So accreditations are just an organization that's going to make sure, and correct me, Dave, if I've oversimplified this, but it's just a way to make sure that programs that are saying that they are providing accurate training and education in a certain field follow at least some type of standard and meet the agreed upon requirements for that person that's going to finish that degree, that everybody meets the same thing or at least has the same type of qualifications. So those type of accreditations, you can also check. Once you see a school is accredited, then you can check to see if that accreditation source is actually a valid accreditation source. Here again on this site, the U.S. Department of Education, you can check that. That is it's www.ope.ed.gov accreditation. Again, you still might find some that are pending accreditation. So at the time, it doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't accredited, but they might be pending accreditation. Yeah, that's what I got for education. And good wine. Good.
So I guess one pet peeve I have when it comes to looking at teams, and I'll powder this or pad this a little bit. But when you're looking into teams that are coming out to your home, that you want to look and see what they do, like what they do, how they do it.
Yep.
I would personally ask them for a as detailed as possible methodology. Like, what do you plan on doing? Shut up, John Kennedy.
Totally we have Kenny doing cryptograms and fanny packs. All right.
Ask them, like, what's the plan? Like, what do you plan on doing in my home? What are you planning on setting up? Are you doing this and that? And when you're background checking the team members, which I highly encourage, the pet peeve that I have is the combined experience.
Here we go.
Statement. So I really have trouble, and I've seen this recently, when a team of 5 people say like they have a combined experience of like 80 years. And you're like, that's a lot. That's a lot. How many? And you realize like they've only been together like for 5 years, and they've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So the combined experience, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't mean you all add up. Like, oh, it's 5 years times 10 members, and now we have 50 years of experience. No, that's not how it works. That means you have 5 years experience, and I can't stand it. On a different version of that is when somebody comes to you and says, yes, I have 40 years of experience in this field. And you're like, oh, cool. And you're talking with them some more, and you find out like their birthday is coming up. And you're like, how old are you? And they're like, 37. Like, wait a minute. Let me do the math here. I think you're over a little bit with your 40 years experience. And we've seen that. The three of us have seen that, definitely.
Oh yeah.
I highly encourage people to say, hey, you know, like, how much experience do you have? How long have you been doing it? Find out if it's legit. You know, have they really been doing it 20 years? And again, when you're talking like I usually equate a year of experience with almost like a 40-hour work week. Like, you've been doing this full time, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks away, or 51 or 50 weeks, you know, with vacation. A year you've been doing it. Even with a hobby, if you're serious about a hobby, or you're doing a part-time job and you're doing it like 20 hours a week every week, then yes, I agree. And maybe this is subjective. Totally. I'm not sure. But if you're doing a hobby like 4 or 5 hours, maybe every week or every other week when you go on a ghost hunt on like a Friday night or Saturday night, I wouldn't count that as a year of experience. You know, like that's stretching it to me. And again,
totally
maybe I'm
agree.
wrong. I don't know. I don't know what the protocols or standards are with how you determine what is a year of experience. I don't know.
The government's really good at defining that, and I worked in government, so you call it a full-time equivalent. It's 2,080 hours.
2,080 hours.
So it's called a
year.
full-time equivalent.
Okay.
And even when we do it at work and plan for a position, and you want to say you need somebody for that job, you do it in full-time equivalents.
Okay.
So if we need somebody to spend all their time on it, it's 2,080 hours, full-time equivalent. We get a half-time person, it's 1,040.
Okay.
And that's, going to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. And I agree with the point you made, you know, going out and going on a 2 or 3 hour investigation every couple of weekends here and there. Yeah, it's hobby. It's not full time. But then you got to look at what the people doing. You should ask them, what do you do when you're not investigating? Are you watching TV shows? Yeah, that doesn't count. Are you trying to,
peer review,
read about various different fields? Are you trying to study case files from things that have maybe been published, the old literature? What are you doing? Those are things you can start peeling away and seeing how much time they're actually spending on the field, because there's a lot more to it than just showing up and walking around somebody's house trying to have a scary experience and record an EVP. Okay. It's the amount of time you put in outside of that that's probably going to dictate somewhat if you're more amateur or you're more, I don't know, citizen science level, or actually you're pretty knowledgeable of the field. So it all depends. But yeah, you're right. Just spending a couple hours. And then talking about the hours, it's so funny when I've seen this happen over the years. They went from our team, or I have 5 years of experience in the paranormal. Well, that's not good enough. So the next group of people start saying, I have 10 years of experience in the paranormal. And now to me, it seems like the standard is I have 20 years of experience in the paranormal. And it's like, okay, so there's a couple problems with that. One, if you claim you were brought up in the paranormal, whatever the hell that means, and you claim that you've been doing this since a kid, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, come on. I read scary books. I went to cemeteries when I was a kid. That doesn't mean shit. I didn't learn or do or progress or learn how to do things. It's when you started to get serious about it. It's just, it's all about the statements people make. I think it was Tim said it, or maybe Kenny, but they're trying to hit a kind of a level of authority and a professional level that maybe isn't really there. So, I mean, all the years we did stuff, we really never said anything like that. It's just kind of like, hey,
Right.
Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. At getting back to what you said before, here's our methodology. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask you questions. We're going to look for natural causes. We're going to come in and talk to you and do a walkthrough. Then if it warrants an investigation, we haven't been able to explain it, then we'll come and do certain things based on the claims you made. But most of the time, even when we were doing those things, we told people we're here to collect data. We're not here to necessarily tell you what it is and get rid of it. We're more here to collect information and try to, from your case and everybody else's that we do, try to come to some general conclusions on what this phenomena is.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you could always tell them here, here's a couple suggestions. If it's bothering you, take charge, all that stuff, look for natural causes and those type of things. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just what they do and how they present themselves and the procedures they follow. A big flag for me would be if you call somebody up and tell them that you think you have a demon in your house and they say, we'll be over tomorrow. Really? Even ask a freaking, but we've all seen that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're just eager to get in there and pretend to be experts. And it's really concerning. So I think you just dig into the years of experience. If they bring that up, ask them what else they really do, look at their methodology, look at other reports on their website. Do they even have reports? I love people that say, I've been doing this 20 years and they don't have a single effing report on their website. And another question is, what have you been doing 20 years? If you've really been doing it for 20 years, what actually have you done? And if you haven't gotten any better or improved, or you have nothing to show for it, I don't know what's worse. That you did it for 20 years and you're still where you're at and it's just a fun hobby, or are you outright lying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, Jen and I were talking about the topic before I came on tonight, and she's like, how easy it is to go and check on how long somebody's website's been up?
Yeah.
And how long their Facebook page has been up. Some people tell you they've been around 20 years, and it's like, well, I see you formed your website last week. And there's no other trace of you anywhere on the internet, which I find would be kind of weird these days. So anyway.
Yeah. I just want to say for the unofficial record that since I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, who were the original ghost hunters, I have over 45 years of experience investigating paranormal activity. So
where's that Tim Vickers
in
part?
search of
Vicker Kenny.
What? I can't do it too?
Gotta throw in
a different
search
standard.
That's one of the best. So we have a question. How many homeowners are really just looking for a TV ghost hunters experience rather than something more real?
I'll tell you, around Halloween, a shit ton. Back when we did go into houses and businesses, I swear people would call around Halloween just so they could have their own little fun live reality ghost investigation thing. And I think it really topped it off for us when we showed up at a place and they had a news crew waiting there before we even showed up. And we're like, no, turned around and left. So especially around Halloween, I think it's a thrill seeking thing for people, and you see a lot of it.
One of the moments that defined my end of doing home investigations was showing up years ago at an investigation at a house, and while we were doing our thing, how it goes, running cable and make sure we all had appropriate black shirts on. People started knocking at the front door. And the owner was like, "Oh yeah, come on in." And I was like, "What the hell? Right." So they started opening chips. They literally were blending margaritas, and people were coming in.
Well, let's not knock that whole approach.
So I pulled the owner. I was like, "So, what exactly?" And she was like, "Oh, this is going to be fun. This was during the era of the ghost hunting TV show, and that it was going to be a great time for them." And it was pretty miserable. And at that moment, I was kind of also to kind of to tack on what Dave just said was after the TV show genre really started kicking off, locations with a history bed and breakfasts, hostels, old restaurants, places that could benefit from having a niche of being haunted, literally would, call. And when I would explain that's not what I do, they were like, well, you're not who we're looking for. And at least they were really honest and didn't waste our time. But yeah, so I was out after that.
I don't know. I mean, because like I said, I don't do many homes. Like I don't actually show up to the homes. Most of the time, it's just I offer advice and I leave it at that. But I can. This is pure speculation. But I would suspect that there is a percentage of homeowners that probably watch the ghost hunting TV shows and then immediately suspect that the noises that they hear throughout the night that night are attributed to demons from the 7 levels of hell, because that's what they just saw on the TV show. And therefore it's like, all right, they start discussing it and decide, let's call a ghost hunting team and have them come out. And so I have no doubt that there's a percentage like that. And I think you can split that even further by saying some see it as a potential to be on TV, while others are generally or genuinely concerned because they're scared. And it's usually because of high anxiety because they just watched a scary show or a comedy. That's how I feel about ghost hunting shows. But for other people, I think there is a good percentage of homeowners that just have weird experiences that they don't understand, and that's it. And they just need someone else that thinks differently or has a different perspective, or maybe has dealt or experienced those experiences before and could offer a different explanation for it. And that's where like people like us come in, where we can say, well, you might maybe try this, or maybe there's animals in the walls or in your attic. Maybe you want to check for droppings. Maybe you want to set up a video camera in the corner, just, see what you capture. And then we go from there, this kind of stuff. So
maybe you want to see a doctor.
Maybe you want to see a doctor. I mean, if things are there, yeah, well, definitely. I have no hesitation. If things get to that point, yes, I'm definitely going to say, maybe you want to talk to your family doctor, and just, see what he says or she says, just see what they say.
Right. I, one of the last ones, where, a gentleman called me and was talking about the horsemen of the apocalypse coming through his living room each night. There was no reason for me to even be involved in that. And, I don't want to use that word. What he was describing to me was very telling about, there were some mental health issues going on, and very clear, but he was dead set on getting a paranormal team. There was no way. The best that I could do was talk to him on the phone, ask him about his family. Hey, who lives with you? Does anybody live with you? Are you married? Do you have any relatives in the area? I got the names of some relatives in the area, looked them up, and called them and said, you need to go check on this person. And that was it. That was it. So it's a good question. I didn't even think about this. A little insulting, Bob, but it's a good question.
He's wanting to get bigger.
Bob. Just kidding, Bob. Would you consider what you three do every week experience? You do research for this podcast. That's a big presumption. Dave.
Little does he know how we operate.
Yeah. Dave, you have your own podcast with Jen, which I give a shout out. That's a good one. Kenny, you have Skeptic Help Bar and Skeptical Inquire articles. You do a lot of research. Does research alone count as experience?
Well, I do more than this podcast and the other one. I probably spend several $100 a year on professional memberships and journals. So I'm constantly reading. I've actually published some papers. I'm working on another paper that is hopefully going to be published soon. Go to places and actually conduct research and experiments and then write them up and obviously publish them. So I would say to me that's experience in the research part of it and trying to learn more. I would consider that experience, because sometimes we're working with people who have legitimate degrees in this field and they've gone through master's and PhD programs, and we're working with those people. So it's a lot different than walking around a cemetery at night with a flashlight. But I think part of what we do for the show, the prep work, that is experience, because you're learning things, you're looking up things, you're learning things, you're critically thinking about them, you're trying to see what you think of them, you're trying to interpret it and then communicate that to you all who are listening. So that's, if you think about it, Bob, that's what you do as a teacher. You went to school for that. You took classes, you sat there, you learned, and now you're taking that knowledge and you're teaching it to other people. So I guess in some way, we could say it is experience. To me, it always comes back to what is the quality of what you are doing. If you are watching TV shows and then going around and running around in the haunted insane asylum, you're getting experience having a good time. But to me, it counts on what you do and how you do it and what you learn from it. And one of the big things is, have you progressed? Most of us probably started out going, oh, fuck yeah, that's an orb on that picture. And oh my God, every creepy little shadow, that's a ghost. But you learn as you progress, you get better, and you learn that that's really not true. And then you look at it more critically and you expand your knowledge from there. So
that was well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think this show, like when we're on the air, I don't think this would be experienced, but what we do beforehand, when we take the time, because this is the result of the experience that we gain before the show, when we research a topic, and when we do, because honestly, like Tim alluded to, like sometimes I literally sit down, I'm like, all right, what are we talking about tonight?
We openly admit that.
Yes.
We'll come out and say we didn't do shit to prepare for this.
But sometimes we can be confident to do that because of past experience, past knowledge that we've gained. And like you said, Dave, this is not all we do. The articles that I write for Skeptical Inquirer take me weeks and months sometimes to go through, because I'm constantly learning. Either I'm reading books to understand something. And I think that's the main point. It's to understand. When you come to an understanding of a topic, you progress. You progress your knowledge. You have a new understanding of something, and you gain experience by not only reading about it, but researching it, by putting it into practice, which is a big deal, because I take apart equipment, and I figure out what's inside of it and how it works. I experiment with it. What can make this go off, other than what like a ghost hunting site claims will make it go off? Figuring out what doesn't. Working with other people that have more experience or knowledge, and in fact, like maybe academic degrees in certain areas, working with them and learning from them, learning their tricks of the trade and tips and understanding. That's gaining experience, because now I am better prepared to deal with something later down the line. So I think all of this that we do, even the Skeptical Help Bar that I do, is a result of that. I don't think it's, that's more of because I do take questions, and I think not only is the show a result of the experience that I've gained up to that point, but it gives me more paths to gain more experience. Because if you ask me a question and I don't know what it is, I'm curious. You know, we either look it up during the show or I write it down in my notes and I look it up later. And then I start gaining a little bit of experience from that. So yeah, I think a lot of what we do, not necessarily on the show, but before the show and preparing for the show could be considered experience. At least I think so. So if I'm wrong, hey, you know, I don't care.
I gotta just for quick. I guess I gotta say, like, there's nothing more I can add from you two, other than to maybe my own idea of experience. I would imagine maybe when people say I have 10 years of ghost hunting experience, they're probably, and this is an assumption on my part, wanting to convey that they've been in some of the most haunted places in America or some of the most haunted places in the world, and they've laid miles of cable to infrared cameras, and they've spent weeks and weeks at the same location reviewing evidence. Fuck, I hate that. So they're reviewing evidence. Well, that's what I used to do. And when I started, and that's what I used to think. But changing my mindset, I don't think for me anymore that that's experience, unless I have a very specific reason to go out and do something to test something that's in my mind. I'm feeling more that I gain more experience learning about paranormal and paranormal claims and culture, the hobby itself, which is very much more fascinating to me than a lot of anything. Is just actually reading papers and reading and listening to other people's successes and failures and learning from both of them. So, you know, listening to Dave and the papers that he sends that I have to read 3 times and Google the shit out of to understand what some of the words are. But I learn from those, and Dave's great. Dave will answer my question, and Kenny's great too. So I learn a lot just from hanging out and chat before each week with those two. So I consider, at least for me, that bolsters my experience with paranormal.
I real quick, I see ghost hunting, like the stereotypical ghost hunting that you see on TV, showcased in the paranormal shows, and that you usually see on the pay to play kind of ghost hunt things, as a repetition of an inefficient routine. I don't see it as experience. You are doing the same non-progressive routine over and over again. You are learning nothing new. You are gaining no new experience. You are gaining no new knowledge. You are going in circles. You're chasing.
That's a really good way. That's exactly how I felt when I hit that wall and was just like, I'm doing the same shit I've done for the past 4 years and nothing's changing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a good question.
Whereas the three of us, like each topic, each week, we have a new topic, and it's like, holy shit, I don't know about that. Let's look into this.
I got to read shit.
But I do learn. I have to say, I do learn because the three of us come from this topic at 3 different perspectives. Right. I get to learn different things from both of you because it's like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. Damn, that's a good one.
That's a good point, though, is to kind of get out of, and we talked about this before, but get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Have people challenge you, look at things differently, think of things differently, bring your attention to something maybe you missed, or, you know, just simply, hey, have you thought about it in this way? And that's a good way to kind of learn and check yourself and progress.
And also, Bob, you be Victor. I love you, Bob.
Yep, we do. Here's a good question. So from the title of the show, can you define what quantum paranormal physics is?
That's all Tim.
I have a great explanation or definition.
Oh, yes.
I was going to say, I didn't know we were having
paranormal
tonight.
Physics is anything that you need it to be to get more more hits on your site, more calls in your pocket, and more people to think that you are an expert. That's exactly what it means.
Between that explanation and Dave's face,
it's to make you sound really good and sciencey.
Yep.
Wow, that's great.
This is a good point. I think we all kind of hit on,
Hey,
but
Jen.
this is something I think about when people say I have 20 years experience, and I this is a really good point. When people do, they do 5 ghost hunts, 6 ghost hunts, 6 paranormal investigations a year, and they spend 5 hours at that location, then they do 30 hours a year. Is that really a year? I mean, that's barely post a day.
Right. So just simple math here. If you do a ghost hunt for 8 hours every week for 1 year, that's only 416 hours. That's really not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nowhere. It's not even halfway to a part-time designation that Dave gave us with the over 1,000 hours. So yeah, that's 8 hours once a week, and I don't think there are ghost hunts that really go 8 hours. When you subtract the time people fall asleep because it's overnight and shit like that. So,
well, and be honest. I can be honest. Like when you're doing a paranormal, shit.
wow,
I've reached the point when you're doing
flag on the play.
And he takes another
when you're
drink.
actually doing a paranormal investigation. Post setting up the equipment,
Right.
between there and tearing it down, what is a lot of the stuff? What are you doing a lot of the time? You're sitting, doing what? Asking for a noise, and when you get it, you're like, oh shit, let's not go check that out. You sit, you talk, you bullshit with your friends, you go out to the vehicle and get a snack, you walk around the location maybe to make sure no one's messing with you. Like, what do you do? So you have your equipment running. What do? You talk some shit into a microphone. Okay. What else do you do? Do you manipulate anything else in the area that you're working in? Maybe. But what are you doing when you're actually saying you're doing an investigation? And that's a pretty good question.
It is. But I think it's more of it to me is what you did beforehand to plan for it. And did you put a certain protocol or methodology in place, and then what you do with it afterwards? Because there's a lot of professional, real mainstream scientists that set up an experiment, let it run, and go get coffee or go home for the night, and the experiment's running, which we could say is the same thing as people setting up their equipment on a ghost hunt and then kind of standing around. So to me, it's not just what you do after you set it up, it's what you do beforehand to determine the protocol and what you do afterwards with the data.
Oh, I can say in my history day,
90% of my time in grad school was spent inoculating cultures and then going to Starbucks. It is what you did afterwards to interpret it and make something out of the data.
Mm-hmm. In my ghost hunting days, the time spent before going to a location was the time going to Little General, getting snacks, making sure we had batteries, because ghosts will drain all the batteries that we have. Of course, those were my days.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work that goes in afterwards. And, I think Jen put something up, but it's like for 8 hours you're there. It's like, if you're serious about it, and you're really looking for data to dive into, you're going to spend 10, 12 hours going through the stuff and then trying to make sense of it. And it's not just collecting the data, it's analyzing it. It's great to say I have all these EMF readings, but what does it mean? How do you know if there's anything there that's interesting? What do you do with it? Which reminds me, we got to get that EMF paper of ours up on our website.
Where that comment, so I'm curious.
Which one?
Jennifer's, about the paranormal research group's investigation time, average investigation time. How did we come up with that number?
That's typically, well, that's based on what we used to do. It'd typically be 6 to 8 hours at a location. And it could have been multiple visits too. But really, it's dictated by the time that everybody has, because this is not their normal job. It's when you're available to do it. And then we always tried to position it when people claim that things were happening.
Oh, okay.
But
So these
6
are
to
all
8 hours, then afterwards we'd spend 10 plus going through all the stuff and trying to analyze it. But after so many years of that, guess what? We learned we're not learning anything new. And then we decided to do things quite differently after that.
Okay.
But yeah, we put a lot of time in some of those. And that's why before we don't go into houses anymore, but back in the day before we did that, we had a whole question set that we would take, to ask people, describe the experiences, who's there, what happens, what time, all those basic questions. But then we also had validated, not psychological, you're not screening anybody and looking for any type of personality stuff, but like, what's their tolerance for ambiguity? What's their paranormal belief level?
Yeah.
What's their transliminality level? And these are all things that by, get this, reading the literature and just not watching TV shows, you learn are correlated with people having and reporting experiences. So we would send them all those questions. Then we would do a little on-site, walk us through, show us what happened, and then the investigation, then the data analysis, and then you go and meet with them and tell them, here's what we found, here's the environmental data, and here's some ideas of maybe what's happening and ways to make it better. And it did not involve actually smudging or an exorcism ever. So I know that's very disappointing. But like I said, we don't do that. We don't go into private homes anymore. The last time I went on, I guess you wouldn't even say a paranormal investigation, was a research outing. We had a specific couple things and experiments we wanted to run at a particular location. So we went and did that, collected the data, and that was it.
Cool.
So I have a good question here, which I'm going to get back to Kevin's, but I missed Kevin's because I saw this cue. Let me ask this question based on what Tim's saying about sitting around. Can firefighters and police officers not claim that they have years of experience because there's a lot of time that they are sitting around? And that's not an insult to what they do. It's just part of the job. I feel like I'm coming at people tonight. That's not my intention. Just vicar me now.
That's a good point. It's kind of the same thing I said about researchers in labs.
Yeah, I would say, there's a lot of training and there's a lot of upkeep of licensure. I know I don't have a lot of experience with firefighters, although I do have a lot of friends that are firefighters, but not as much as law enforcement. I do know that there's certifications, there's trainings. So when there is downtime, there's typically upkeep with equipment. There's upkeep with education. There is opportunities to go learn from a place that's ready to train an actual subject. Law enforcement officers, they have to keep up certifications, or at least they have to certify. They have to do firearms training. They have to recertify with their pistols. They have to be able to say that they can shoot during the day, shoot at night, day sights, night sights. There's always lists of trainings that you can continue to do. There are moving up. You promote within the same agency. I'm going to imagine that's the same with fire departments. So as you promote, you also have to learn different skills, which you will go to more classes to learn. For forensic, what I do for a living, forensic interviewing, I'm going to tell you, if there's not a forensic interview and my documentation is done and I'm not in court, I might sit around a little bit. I'm not going to say any more just in case the director's listening. But I have peer review. So I have to have peer review twice a year. I also peer review other people's information. I get stuff sent from a national organization that are updates to what we do, updates to child development, updates to child psychology, updates to the techniques that I do. So if I'm not doing an interview, there's often things that are given to me that I do have to continue to educate myself to stay up to date on the current information that's given. I don't necessarily think that people that are doing paranormal investigations as a hobby have anything like that in the resources afforded to them. And I think that might be the difference. So if someone told me that they spent 20 years on the force and law enforcement, I'm going to shake their hand and say thank you. Same way with law enforcement. I wouldn't worry so much about what happened during the downtime.
Right.
My experience with that is law enforcement and fire department is 98% boredom and 2% absolute terror for your life. So that's the life.
I think the thing is that they're trained to respond in a very competent, logical way on various different situations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's think about professional athletes. Yeah, they practice, they watch film, but I mean, they don't play. They actually don't play, for example, football. They don't play the game 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. They go out and play for 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But they're trained to perform a certain task, or they have a certain ability that they've trained for to go out and implement with confidence and competence. So I think there's a little bit of a difference between a professional field and really the ghost hunting paranormal investigation community.
Yeah. Because I think we're comparing some professional jobs that require continuing education. Because even in my job, like I do have some downtime, but it's not actually downtime. Even though I'm not working on specific equipment, I do have continuing education training classes that are either recertifications or, hey, this is a new format or new software or new hardware that's coming out, and it's time to learn it. So I have to get on to like online training or actually go to training school and work on that. So same with firefighters and police. Like, yeah, they have continuing education, recertifications, and more stuff. The more they want, the more they have to learn. And it's not about sitting around. And when we compare it to a hobby like ghost hunting, yes, I think you guys nailed it. Like, there is no continuing education unless you do it yourself. So if you choose to learn better procedures or better methodology, or to understand, for instance, photography, I'm just picking on that because I love it. You can choose to do online classes. You can choose to get manuals and read up on photography techniques. You can watch videos. There's plenty of tutorials that you can do. The problem is they're not necessary, or not. Wait, wrong word. They're not necessitated. It is not required. So, and that's the big difference. You can say you're a ghost hunter because you watched a bunch of TV shows, and then go out and start doing it. And there's no requirement for you to keep learning or keep improving yourself. So I think that's a major difference.
Yep, definitely.
Cool.
So here's a good question. We'll hit on this and then look for the follow-ups for if there's any more. Can a person investigate their own paranormal experience? I think that's a really good introduction to it. It looks like they have something. They have a friend claims to have been attacked by an evil spirit who scratched their back, left a wound. I said, "Did you get it investigated?" They said, "Yeah, we went back and there was nothing there's nothing that could have done it." I said, "No tree branches or animals," and I added that you can't investigate yourself. Now she's pissed at me for doubting her.
I probably this is like a twofold question. There's yes, initially you should investigate it yourself. You should be able to, if you're looking for a cause, whatever that cause may be, but you should still look for a cause. But I also think that in cases of when we're talking about ghost hunting, there are specific biases that we commonly come across. And I think if you believe that you got scratched by a ghost rather than a tree branch or something else, you might not be looking for every excuse. Or if you are and you find it, you might not be necessarily honest with yourself. So even when something weird happens to me, if something strange would happen to me, I would definitely look first. And if I couldn't find something immediately, I would definitely ask somebody else to look at it. I would say, hey, like Tim, Dave, you come up here for a weekend because this really fucked up experience happened to me and I couldn't find something. I need independent investigation. I need somebody else to look at this for me because I'm not sure what happened. And I think that's the way I would go with it. Mm-hmm. To say outright that no, you absolutely cannot investigate your own experience. I don't think I agree with that completely because I think you can to a point. Because I have. I mean, I've done it. I've had weird things hit me in the head or something, and I figured out in a couple minutes what happened. So I think you can, but I think you have to be aware of biases and look for a second opinion before you conclude that it's something that you have no supporting evidence for. Dave?
Yeah, you definitely can investigate it yourself, but yeah, getting somebody else to take a look at it and get a different opinion, that's what you should do. I mean, how many times as a paranormal investigator you go into a supposedly haunted location and you hear something or see something? What's the first thing you do? You go and investigate it. You try to find out what it was, and is there a natural explanation for it or isn't there? And then if you can't find anything, get some other people to come take a look at it as well. So yeah, I guess you can investigate it yourself, but it also depends on what your worldview and mindset is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a true believer, that's obviously going to bias you some way. If you're a cynic, that's going to bias you the other way. So it probably takes somebody, either get people on opposite ends of that spectrum to take a look at it, or maybe somebody that's kind of in the middle and is open to all possibilities and will look at it in a more holistic manner. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking a look at something yourself, but I wouldn't want to draw any specific conclusions if it was just an experience and I don't have anything else that's objective to try to support it.
Right.
Cool. So here's a good question, but I kind of think unless you guys have more to add, we have a...
I don't think Tim has the commercial loaded up.
Oh, I don't?
Do you?
I don't.
You don't? I didn't think so.
Oh,
no pee break tonight.
What the hell, Tim? It's been like how many weeks?
2.
Has it been? No. I've played it at least twice.
This is how Tim keeps the show somewhat shorter. The show only goes on for as long as his bladder can hold out.
Didn't we send it to you again?
Again?
Stop drinking all that wine.
The wine is great. I got to go back to Irish cream.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no bad questions, Bob. Only bad energy. Damn it, energy.
I can't drink. I'm empty because we don't have a commercial.
Well, I'm looking for any more questions just to make sure. I can go on if there's no more questions. Damn it, Tim.
Tim. We can't vicar him because he's just been vicared too much.
That's right. Can I vicar myself without ending the show? Probably not. I don't even want to test it because that would be a horrible moment.
If you do, we'll just see you all next week.
Yeah.
So I'll start out with some final thoughts so that we all can go to the bathroom and Kenny can get more drink after this. I think at minimum, it does not hurt and rather would behoove you if you're inviting somebody into your house that you do not know to perform some type of service to your house and or your family, that you would know who's coming in. Minimum, I think a Google search of the name, the names of the teams. I think one of the, I didn't get to talk about the sex offender registry list, but you can actually, each state has a sex offender registry list. Typically it's with the state police department. But there's a national sex offender website. It's nsopw.gov. You can check there. I mean, minimum. And I would also argue for no one to feel bad for that. Don't feel bad for checking up on people that you're inviting into your house. Like, I have heard sometimes that people feel like they shouldn't be doing that, or they'll be embarrassed if the person that they're checking up on finds out that they're checking up on them. Well, if you're checking on someone coming into your house and they get pissed at you for checking up on them, that's a person you don't want in your house. That is a very good sign that is not the one. Very good sign. So minimum, check on it. Joining a team, make sure you know who you're putting your name with. I think that you could probably do the same information. Just check them out. Make sure minimum, because it's your name that's going to go with that team as well. And if something goes down with that, your name's attached to it as well. That's I think minimum, that's it. So I'll send it to Dave, because Kenny's taking your place.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. If you're going to have somebody come into your home, or if you're going to join a group, either way, look into the person, who they are. Criminal record is important. They should not be trying to hide anything if they're trying to come into your home and do certain things and investigate. Same thing goes with if you want to join a group. Look into the group, and the group should look into you as well. Kind of expect that. You want to know who you're dealing with, because a lot of these locations, they're private homes, businesses, or they're isolated remote locations, big isolated remote locations. So you want to know who you're going to be hanging out with. You can do the background checks. You can look at their website. You can look at their methods, protocols. Is it recent? And what are you trying to get from, what do you expect these people to do? If you're asking somebody to come into your house, what do you expect them to do? Be open with them as much as you want them to be open with you. And just kind of take a look at what they've done in the past and how they present themselves and the methods they use. And I mean, just step back and ask yourself, does this look legitimate? Does this look like somebody who is, either going to help me or just show up to have a good time? Are they trying to get a TV show or collect information? So there's just a plethora of information on the internet these days. So you should be able to find out something about somebody and a group. So just do a little bit of homework, and it might save you a lot of headache and concern and worry in the future.
Good
points.
All right, my turn. All right, so there are fucked up people in the world. All right,
that pulls up the whole show right there.
There you go.
Fucked up people.
That's the main focus here, and protect yourself. That's all we're trying to get across here. That there are fucked up people, there are dangerous people, there are crazy people out there. Not all of them, but a good percentage of people in the world fall into that category. Don't let them into your house, or don't get caught with them. Don't get caught alone with them. So don't be afraid to ask for references. Don't be afraid to do background checks. There is no shame in this. This is your home. This is your life. This is your family. There is no shame at all. I background check every freaking person I come in contact with that has to do with paranormal stuff. When they contact me for something, I don't care if they're asking me for a reference or to review something for them, or, hey, I got this problem in my house. I background check everyone. I get their name, their location, boom. I put it into the services that I subscribe to and get all the information. And I have no shame. If you have a problem with that, that's on you. And like you guys said, and I think Dave really articulated it good. That's a red flag. That's your problem. You shouldn't be hiding anything. And if you're hiding something from me and you want to come into my house, or you want me to join your team, oh, no. son. That's not how this works. Okay. No, call your bullshit right there. In addition, contact other places that the team has visited, whether you want to join them or you're going to have them in your home. Contact the places. They said these are all the places we visited, all these famous locations, and they're plastered all over their website. Contact them. Call the managers up and said, hey, I heard you had this team in there. How did they behave? Were they respectful? Did they treat everything nice? Did they do anything weird? What have you? Get that review from them. Figure it out. Check credentials. If they say they've had the team leader has 127 years of experience, check that shit. Figure out all right, what's going on here? What did they really do? If they claim to have a PhD or especially in my experience, if they claim to be a parapsychologist, damn well check that shit, because I guarantee most of them, the vast majority, do not. I just base that on what I've seen so far and how easy it is to get your own parapsychology diploma / degree. And I think I've shown it on the show before. It's not that hard. To get a legitimate one takes a long time, really long time, and a lot of money. It's not cheap. So check it. If a ghost hunter, especially like a celebrity ghost hunter, is saying, "Oh, I'm a parapsychologist," no, they're not. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, this is your life that you're having these people interfere with. You don't want to get stuck in the middle of nowhere with them. Don't. You don't want them coming in your house and being alone in any room of your house. People, you got sickos out there. So some might go through the drawers. They might go in your cabinet. They're definitely going to look in your medicine cabinet. I guarantee it. They're going to look in your medicine cabinet because they want to see what meds you're on. and that's information you might not want to share. And at the very least, Google is your friend. Seriously. I mean, I do understand that some of these background checks are expensive. I usually do like a monthly or yearly subscription, and they can get pricey, but for me, it's worth it. But even Google, I mean, you can get a free background check at some websites, or just the name. And I mean, Tim, I think you said you just did a Google search on this one person, and it came up. So that was free. Didn't cost them anything. Nope. So use that tool. Use the tools that are here. You guys are watching this show. You can get on the internet. You can background check someone. So do it. And with that, I'm done.
All right. Well, that was a fun show.
That was fun.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody for listening. I'm feeling buzzed. I drank a lot of damn wine.
Tim is feeling good. Yeah.
Feeling good. Well, you guys have anything coming up? I know I don't, so I'll pass it straight off to you guys.
Nothing for me, so go ahead, Kenny.
Shit. Not ready yet, damn it. Hold on a second. I do have 3 things coming up. Where's my phone? I'll just cheat off.
Well, there's one I think we're going to try to meet. We kind of very lightly want to try to do all 3 of us together.
So yeah, there is, let's see, I can't even see my phone anymore. So June 3rd to 5th is Phenomenology, and that's in Gettysburg. And that's one that was supposed to happen last year, but got postponed and then postponed again. So it looks like it's happening, because Pennsylvania has rolled back. The last I heard, they were at 75% capacity or more, almost like 85%, 75 to 85% capacity for indoor events. And again, I would still stress, have your mask on. Just do it. Even if you're vaccinated, just do it anyway, because you don't want to be a carrier.
Right.
But so that's on. I'll be out in Gettysburg for that. I'll have my booth set up. And then the next one is again in Gettysburg. It's the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. That is August 20th to the 22nd. That supports kids with cancer and Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors. I will also have my booth, my physical booth, set up. Both of those conferences, I will be taking donations. If you want to sit down and ask me a question, because it's Ask a Skeptic basically thing. If you want to have a conversation with me, just make a donation to the can. It goes to the Cancer Research Institute. If you want to argue with me, it's $100 flat fee. All right. You can sit there and yell at me all you want. Then I'll give you like 10 minutes. You can yell at me and curse me out. $100 in the pot cash.
Well, now I'm going.
That should get a lot of people. And then finally, September 25th is the Para Unity Conference in Woodbridge, New Jersey. I'll be there just roaming around. I don't have a booth set up for that one. And that's the events that I have so far. So there you go.
All right. With that said, thank you, everybody. I hope I am cognizant enough to get through this without ending the show this time without the music playing.
The last time you hit the music
playing.
and
Sorry.
done.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to try this the right way. Here we go. Everybody have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Wrong one.
Don't for Charles, don't for Charles, don't for Charles. With the real, those what the need. With the real, thing, what is real. Don't question me. Take this about. Take it out. Take this about. Those that are real. I'm not taking it. Don't for Charles, don't for Charles, don't for Charles, don't for Charles. And all what you say, I will get to better.